To prepare for the modifications that we're going to make in Blender, what we need to do is take all of these materials, all of these groups, and combine them into a smart material. Now, a smart material, you can see over here, is a kind of material that has built in a lot of the details that we were building in ourselves, like edge wear and dirt and rust. And these smart materials can be opened up in any project. So whereas this layer group here is specific just to this file, if I save these all as a smart material, I can then open it up in any new or subsequent files. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to select this layer and delete that one. That's just the one that we were doing a paint test on. What I want to do is take all of these groups, select them all, and then I'll right click on them and choose Group Layers. Now they've all been added to one master group. We'll call this M249 Gun Textures. Let's try that. And then what we can do is take this main group, right click it, and choose Create Smart Material. Now that's being created right down here in our Smart Materials panel. Let's now go back to Blender and make the modifications we need. So we've decided to come back and add some low poly version of these things here, these little rivets or tabs along the magazine case. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just create a cylinder, make it 12 sides, let's say. Let's create a triangle fan cap fill, and I'll just begin putting it in place here for each of these pieces. I'll bring back the high res version and I'll go to my side view and wireframe, and I'll just try and scale this down and put this in place right in here. Alright, I've added these around this magazine case, and now I need to combine them with the rest of the gun. So I'll just select all of them, and then I'll shift select the gun and press Ctrl J. And that will combine the whole thing, and since we selected the gun last, these pieces will inherit its material. I'll go ahead and make sure everything's smoothed. There we go. And now let's go and UV map this. I'll save it and then go to my UV editing screen layout. I'll go to my solid viewport shading. I'll get rid of this particular image here by clicking on the X. And now let's tab into edit mode, select A, and then U, and Smart UV Project. We'll click OK, and then uncheck Stretch to UV Bounds. And there we go. So now we have a new UV map with the islands in slightly different places. So if we were to do this when using Photoshop or an image manipulation program, we would have to redo all of the textures because everything would have moved on our UV map. Now, one last thing we need to do is assign our vertex colors to those pieces. So let's switch over to edit mode, and let's just select these pieces with the L key. I'll hit L for each of these. Now that we have those selected, let's go over to the vertex paint area, and we want these to be the same as this right here. So let's make it blue. Let's choose our blue palette and press Shift K. And once again, this is why we created these palettes, so we could find that exact color if we ever needed to come back. So now let's go back to object mode, and with all of that done, let's select our gun, export it out, export FBX. In our exports folder, we'll call it machine gun new _ low. We'll make sure and choose selected objects down here, and we'll click export. Now let's go over to Substance Painter. Here in Substance Painter, let's go ahead and bring in that new object. I'll go to File, New. Let's go ahead and save this. And then I'll choose Select, bring in that machine gun new, click Open, and OK. And there's our low polygon now. Let's go ahead and create the color ID map so we can see if it's going to work just to drop our smart material into our layers panel. So I'll click Bake, unselect everything except ID. Make sure our output size is 2048. That's what we've been using, I think. In the ID panel, I need to choose Vertex Color, and then let's click Bake. All right, now that we've done that, let's get rid of this layer here, and let's just grab our smart material and drag it in over here. All right, it looks like it's gonna do it. Now it's added those materials to these pieces here. Now it looks a little different because we haven't baked any of the other textures yet. So let's do that. I'll click Bake Textures. We've still got 2048 here. I'll deselect the ID and select everything else. And then let's bring in our high poly version here. Let's put our anti-aliasing up to 2x2, and then let's click Bake. And there we go. Our materials are applied once again. So I really think that using smart materials in this way is a really powerful tool when using Substance Painter. It allows you to go back to Blender, make changes, re-UV map your model, and then bring it back in and apply the same textures that you had before. That's the great thing about having the materials apply to the vertex colors and not directly to the UV map. So let me just show you, if we come over here to this icon here and change from 3D only to 3D and 2D, you can see the UV map here. The colors and materials are being laid down on the UV map based on the vertex colors, not on the UV islands. So you can go back to Blender, change things, re-UV map, bring in a completely different UV map, and still have the materials apply to the vertex colors. It's pretty slick, I think. So, now that we've finished our texturing, in the next video, we'll talk about exporting these textures out for Unity, taking in the low poly model into Unity as well as our textures.